All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning. We are here on the 4th of July. It is Independence Day. It is also Saturday. So we've made it to the weekend. And like I said, there's not going to necessarily be much that happens in July in terms of football related news. And a lot of the stuff that happens won't even really be Seahawks related. So we get the opportunity to kind of take a step back and look at some other things, some things kind of future, looking to the future a little bit here. And I know that once the preseason starts in a little bit more than a month, nobody's really going to want to talk about this stuff because we're going to have games to play. So I want to go ahead and take a video here to talk about next year's free agency, next year's contract decisions. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks, and the reason why I want to do this is to really try to establish what the team is looking at coming up next year that might impact their decision making now. Because in the last several weeks, when I've talked about guys like Devin Witherspoon and talked about Leonard Williams, some people have asked, okay, well, where does that leave us with the other players that we might want to keep around going forward? So let's answer that. Let's actually try to seek to understand exactly what the Seahawks are looking at next offseason and maybe even a little bit leaking into the next offseason, although mostly I'm going to keep the focus on 2027. So I got the Spotrac page open. This is a list of every current 2027 Seattle Seahawk free agent. And I'll zoom in a little bit since we don't need to see anything other than just the name, because right now we're kind of far away from even being able to project contract stuff. But 2027 Seattle Seahawks free agents. Now, the first thing you're going to see is 42 players, and you're going to be like, "Oh no, we're in trouble." Remember, a lot of the players that are going to be listed here are kind of relative. I don't want to say disposable, because on a team that wins the Super Bowl and has this kind of depth, I don't know if anybody is disposable, but you'll see what I mean when we get through this list. There are going to be a lot of guys here that are unlikely to be kept around and don't really need to be kept around, with a couple of exceptions. But let's go through the list here and, keep this in mind as we talk about things like Devin Witherspoon and, to a lesser extent, maybe Leonard Williams, although you will notice Leonard Williams is the first name listed here. So I guess we can kind of knock that one out. Yes, he's a guy who's going to be a free agent next year. I believe he will be extended this offseason. Leonard Williams is a little too good to play on his contract year. And my understanding, as of recent reporting, is that he wants to get extended and the team wants to extend him. So if that is the case, I believe Leonard Williams will be taken care of. He's really good. He still has good years left. To me, the only way he doesn't get extended would be if he's already made up his mind that he's going to retire after the season and he's not interested in getting a golden parachute. So that is the big one, yes, but that's already kind of wrapped into the conversations we're having. Now, you go down this list. Okay, Uchenna Nwosu, unless he has a really good season this year, and it would be just kind of a thing that comes out of nowhere, because other than the first half of the season last year, Nwosu has not really been himself for 3 years now. So I think it is overwhelmingly likely Nwosu is going to walk at the end of the season. And given how bad his body has been beat up lately, he might even retire. So I don't think Nwosu's much of a consideration right now. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball, we got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like, Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. All right, so those are the two big ticket guys in terms of current average annual value. But let's move past those two guys. Jason Myers, probably going to get extended next offseason, so that is a consideration. But even if he sets the market for a kicker, which is debatable because of his age, it's still not going to be some $10 million deal, I don't think. I don't think we're there. I don't think we're to that point with kickers yet. So it's still going to be manageable, especially with the cap going up the way that it is. Josh Jones, either we bring him back or we don't. He's our backup swing tackle. Maybe he gets like 4 million, 5 million, maybe he doesn't. Just kind of depends, but it's not really something I would say is like crucial or pivotal. If it's not Josh Jones, the team can go get somebody relatively similar if they need to. Drew Lock, maybe we bring him back on a cheap backup salary. Maybe we don't. I don't think it matters that much. It kind of depends on what happens with Milroe and what happens in the upcoming draft. So I think that is kind of it's certainly not going to be a big commitment. Dante Fowler, maybe he comes back on a cheap deal. Maybe he walks. Maybe he retires. It's not going to be some big commitment. Igbinoghene, I don't even know if he's going to make the team this year. I don't think that is worth worrying about right now. Brandon Peely, same thing. Charbonnet's a guy who could definitely be a little bit of a... There could be a little bit of a compelling story around Zach Charbonnet, I suppose, because we are talking about a player that is has been prolific in this league. He's been a notable NFL running back, but he's coming off a major injury for this season. He's going to miss some of the season. He's going to be splitting carries again with Price. I don't see Zach Charbonnet ascending to the point where he becomes some in-demand running back that gets a monster deal. And he might be lucky to even get a modest deal because of the way his role is going to be diminished this year because of bad luck and circumstance. Emmanuel Wilson, not even guaranteed to make the team this year. D'Anthony Bell, same. Rodney Thomas, same. Kaz Surratt, same. Eric Saubert, maybe we bring him back on a cheap one-year deal, kind of like the 1.3 million he got this year. Maybe not. Doesn't really matter. Bobby Hart probably doesn't make the team, and if he does, I mean, it doesn't really mean much. Harrison Bryant, no way he makes the team. Maybe the practice squad. John Charles, Velez Jones, like these are guys that are just, for the most part, they're just here for training camp. They're not even going to be here this year. And thinking about them sticking around beyond even this training camp is a little bit of a reach. Anthony Bradford, yeah, he's a guy who, if he has a good year, could be brought back. I don't think he's going to get some monster deal, though. I think that, a happy path scenario for him would be getting like a 3-year, 20 million, maybe $25 million a year, or 25 million total deal. And that's if he plays really well this year. It could be less. We could not want to bring him back because he didn't play well enough, or we're afraid that without the contract year thing, he'll go back to being inconsistent. So I don't think that's something we need to be afraid of. We don't need to earmark money ahead of time for Anthony Bradford. Cody White, it's not even clear if he makes the team this year. Okada, yeah, you're probably going to want to bring Okada back, but he's a restricted free agent. It's going to be pretty easy to bring him back for just a few million. And if you do give him a contract, it's not going to be exuberant, or it's not going to be exorbitant, because he has the RFA tag you can use. AJ Finley, I mean, maybe, maybe not. He doesn't really play yet, so we don't really know. Alani, maybe he has a good year and justifies an RFA tag, but I think it's unlikely. Mike Morris, either way, it's not going to cost much of anything. Oluwatimi, I like Oluwatimi, but he is a backup center at this point, and if you bring him back, it's going to be cheap, and if you don't, you just get somebody else to replace him. Irvin Charles, pure special teamer, and then you've got a bunch of these guys who either never play or seldomly play, like Kenny McIntosh. He's like you look at this list, like look at all these ERFA guys: Jamie Sheriff, J.R. Singleton, Ricky White, Chris Paul. These are not guys that are going to get big contracts, and even if they were, we have the ERFA tag. and we can use it with pretty much impunity. So none of these guys are going to swoop in and get some monster contract. The one guy on this list that is really worth keeping around, the ERFA guys, is Jalen Sundell or Jalen Sundell. I always forget how to pronounce his name. Sorry, but ERFA. He is an exclusive rights free agent, so bringing him back is going to be super cheap. So if you are a Seahawks fan and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, we got to pinch our pennies right now. We can't spend any money because we need to save our money to extend a bunch of guys next year. You look at it, and I'm not really seeing that. Like the one really expensive guy here is Big Cat. And Big Cat, I think, gets extended this year. He's kind of part of the conversation we're having for the present. Other than that, like, I see a bunch of guys that are going to get a few million thrown their way. Maybe Myers gets like $6 million a year on a new contract, but that's I don't see a lot that I'm like, oh man, we got to make sure we save enough money for that guy. We got to save $20 million, $25 million for free agents next year because we got to keep these guys. I don't see none of that. I see a bunch of guys who may not even make the team this year. I see a bunch of guys who, whether or not they come back for 2027, I'm not really too stressed out about it. And like I'm if my choices are lose a bunch of these guys or lose Devin Witherspoon, I'm losing a bunch of these guys. Now, the one part of this that is a little bit more complicated than everything I just said, there are going to be some guys in the last year of their deal next year that you have to start thinking about. So, in fairness, let's take a look at some of the guys who have their contracts come up in 2028 and think about that. Because this is where things get a little bit muddy. Sam Darnold, last year of his deal is 2028. You might have to extend him next season, right? And he might, look, if he has another really good year this year and the Seahawks make a deep run or even win the Super Bowl again, or even just make it or whatever, Darnold may want that $55 million a year type money. And I don't know if the Seahawks would give it to him, but they might. So, okay. Now you're pressing up against it a little bit. Now, Cooper Kupp, I'm sure, is going to retire or leave. I mean, I don't think Cooper Kupp gets extended. And if he does, it's not going to be some big contract. It's going to be like a veteran, just hang around for a little bit longer contract more than anything. Julian Love, though, yeah, okay, maybe. It depends on how he plays this year. He could want an extension, and that could be expensive. Julian Love's, I know he was injured most of last season, but he's been a very good player in this league. DeMarcus Lawrence, probably going to retire. He might retire before 2028, honestly. I kind of feel like this year's his last year, so okay. But Ernest Jones going to be up for an extension, and I imagine he'll probably get it because this team values him tremendously, and his first contract was a bargain. I'm not going to talk about Witherspoon here because he's wrapped into the conversation we're having right now. Jaron Reed will probably retire or move on or get resigned for super cheap because he's not overly valuable to this team right now. But hey, Byron Murphy, right? Byron Murphy will be up for an extension next year, and that could push up, that could set the market. And if it does, I won't really have any objection to it. He deserves it the way he plays. Drake Thomas, he could want an extension next year. He'll have 1 year left on his deal. And depending on how he plays this year, that could cost at least some money. Jake Bobo, Brady Russell, Chris Stoll, these guys will not be expensive. Christian Haynes, probably done there. I don't even know if he makes the team this year. Tyrese Knight, kind of depends. But then you've got AJ Barner. And if you've been paying attention to the way some of these tight ends have gotten paid recently, like Brenton Strange and Kyle Pitts, AJ Barner could get well over $15 million a year. He could push up close to $18 million a year on like a 3-year deal to stick around because there aren't that many great blocking tight ends in the league anymore. And the fact that AJ Barner is a good blocker while also being at least a capable pass catcher. Like there was a time where I would have said that a player like AJ Barner doesn't command the big bucks. I don't know if that's true anymore. And we might find out next offseason that, okay, we got to extend him. So you got Barner, you've got Murphy, you've got Darnold, you've got maybe Love, you got Ernest Jones. This is where the pain maybe comes in. So that's the other side of it. There is some stuff you're going to have to deal with here. Now, the other side of that is thinking about the money that's going to start to come off. Like, Cooper Kupp is almost certainly going to get released next offseason, right? And we're going to save a bunch of money by not having Cooper Kupp. I seriously doubt he's going to get to come back on that big, fat last year of his deal. Same for a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence. And Lawrence might retire, and we're going to save a bunch of money there. Jaron Reed, likely to retire. We're going to save a decent chunk of money there. And that does take care of a lot of it. You could move off of Julian Love. If Julian Love has another season where he can't stay healthy, that's 2 injury-prone seasons in a row, you're probably moving on at that point. Like, that could free up a lot of money too. So there's going to be stuff that happens that still allows you to take care of this. And it's an intimidating, don't get me wrong, it's intimidating. Having to pay your franchise quarterback and your signal calling all-pro linebacker and your, I think should be, I know he's not there yet technically, but should be all-pro defensive tackle. And, AJ Barner, who is probably on the fringe of a top 10 tight end. Yeah, that could get a little bit bloody. But the other thing to keep in mind is you don't have to pay these guys next year. Like, Murphy's definitely going to get the 5th-year option picked up. You could wait. I don't recommend it, but you could. You could let Ernest Jones or Sam Darnold play out the last year of their deal, although I would not recommend that either. Same for Julian Love. And in the case of Love, if he has something to prove, that would be understandable. And there's no law that says you have to extend AJ Barner, so you could push things out a little bit. Remember, you don't expect your Super Bowl window to stay open forever. You're just trying to keep it open for a few years. But I look at all this, and I see some things that need to be taken care of. But next year, this list of free agents, once you wipe off Leonard Williams, it's really not that much that I'm obsessed about keeping. I see a bunch of guys who are probably going to be gone in the next couple months. I see a bunch of guys who are not really part of the plan past this season, even if they are going to be on the team. And I see some guys that, well, it depends. But I don't know. I'm not obsessed with bringing Anthony Bradford or Zach Charbonnet back on a second deal. All right, so I'm going to go and get on out of here. Let me know what you guys think. I just wanted to go over that so people understand that the money that we have, I don't see any imminent earmarks for it. I see down the line, yeah, there's some stuff. But don't be afraid of paying really good players really good money, because you might have to pay another really good player money in a couple of years. You can always find more money. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think. See you guys soon.